Hi folks, welcome to Greg's Workshop. I'm Greg and today we're going to be painting this bench that we built a couple weeks ago. We're going to start off by sanding. I'm using 40 grit sandpaper here. That's pretty aggressive, but I put a couple of plugs in some of the pocket holes and I need that aggressive sandpaper to sand it flush. Next, we'll switch to 120 grit sandpaper before we put the first coat of primer on. Be sure to vacuum off all the dust. After sanding, we're going to use a tack cloth to clean up any leftover dust particles. This is kind of a sticky, loose woven cotton mesh. You can get it at any home center or hardware store. It's in the paint section and it's made specifically for surface prep before painting. After you've sanded, vacuumed, and wiped the surface off with the tack cloth, get some painter's tape and mask off any areas you don't want to be painted. The bottom of these bench legs are going to get a special treatment a little bit later. We're going to start off with a primer. I like to use Kills Premium 3 Interior Exterior Primer. It's water cleanup, it goes on really well, it dries quick, it's a 1 hour recoat. We're going to go ahead and put 2 coats of this on and then put on our top coat. We're going to use a chip brush to cut in the primer along the edges and the details. After we cut in the edges with the chip brush, we're going to be using this 4-inch roller with a 3/8 inch nap. I like a 3/8 inch nap for this type of wood. It does a really good job of filling in all the surface imperfections. After letting the first coat of primer dry for an hour, we'll put on the second coat. Now that the primer is dry, we can go ahead and give it a final sanding. We're going to use our random orbit sander and 220 grit sandpaper. For our top coat, we're going to be using Valspar Signature with Scuff Guard. This is actually a wall paint. They say it's not for furniture, but I've used it on a couple of previous projects and it's pretty durable. You can scrub it, you can clean it, you can do whatever you need to do and it'll survive. Here's a tip. When dumping paint out of a can, dump it out of the front so that it goes over the main label. That way you still have all the instructions on the back that you can read. We're going to switch to a higher quality brush for the top coat. This is an 1.5 inch wide brush made by Purdy. Higher quality brushes need a little bit more maintenance than chip brushes that you can just throw away. We want to rinse the brush out with hot water. After we have all the paint rinsed out, we're going to use a paintbrush spinner to spin most of the water out before we set it aside to dry. Alright folks, it's late at night, it's raining outside, we need to get one more coat on before I go to bed. Let's get going. 6 o'clock next morning. Paint's dry. Let's get it flipped over, get the tape taken off the bottom, and I'll show you what I'm going to do for the feet. One of the really great things about building your own furniture is that you can customize it for exactly its intended use and location in your house. This bench is going to be in our laundry room. It's going to be just inside the back door. Underneath it will be all of our boots and shoes. They're going to be muddy, they're going to be wet, they may be snowy. Eventually that water is going to run out onto the floor a little bit. It's going to hit the bottom of these legs. This is all ingrain so it can soak it up. That'll cause mildew, rot, discoloration, all the things that we want to avoid. So we're going to seal up this ingrain and give it a little bit of a rubberized grip before we put it in place. Just like any other finish, you want to mask off the areas that you don't want to get painted. And what are we going to be using to rubberize and protect this bottom? Flex Seal. This stuff is pretty thick, so you want to use a small brush, go slow, and dab a little bit on at a time. Downside to using Flex Seal, takes 24 to 48 hours to dry. I'm going to come back a little bit later today to remove the masking tape so this doesn't dry onto the tape and cause me to tear off the seal. But other than that, we'll be back in a couple of days to see how it looks. We started painting this Wednesday morning. It's now Friday night. I just got home from work. The paint's dry, the Flex Seal's dry. It's time to get it inside and see how it looks. Folks, thanks for coming along on this two-part series of building and painting a pine bench. If you liked the video, go ahead and hit the thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell so you get notified of new videos every Saturday morning. Leave a comment, I promise I'll respond. Thanks for coming along at Greg's Workshop, and I'll see you next week.